If you clicked on this video, it either means you are a Habs fan or you are a fan of this YouTube channel. Regardless, there are some pretty interesting pieces of news and speculative rumors that I wanted to pool together into one big mega pack of Habs talk for this video here today. What is up, your other Rafaël Harvey-Pinard back here, and today we're going to be talking about a few Montreal Canadiens prospect rumors, a few prospect updates, and some actual updates with the signings and management of the team. Now, starting things off, let's go over with probably the most important news that we didn't actually put in the thumbnail or anything. Let's talk about what Marc Bergevin and Claude Julien did, because this is actually a pretty boss move, and I have a whole bunch of respect for Julien and Bergevin for doing this. These two have just announced that they are going to be cutting 20% of their salary. Now that's each. So 20% of Bergevin's salary and 20% of Julien's salary are each going to be cut for the purpose of using that money to help out the guys who are losing out on their jobs, etc. It's out of solidarity for other Canadiens employees. It's going to be a $6 million fund pooled together from the two salaries, which will allow workers to get 80% of their salary for the first 8 weeks of work stoppage. And there's going to be a loan program for employees who need it. Again, that's a crazy, crazy good move, and I'm really proud of Julien and Bergevin to actually sit down and say, yeah, you know, we're making a lot of money here, we're pretty much millionaires over here making our NHL salary, let's pool the money that we have and give it to those who aren't as fortunate as us within the Canadiens organization. So that is a very, very good gesture, something that I think Canadiens fans across the board can agree is a good move, and you love to see it. You love to see people helping each other out in times of need. But going over into other Canadiens management decisions, they actually decided to sign a player here. They have a 1-year, 2-way contract for Gustav Olofsson, a guy who spent the majority of his past few years just bouncing around here and there, AHL time, a few NHL games here and there. He was with the Wild for a little bit, he was with the Canadiens for a little bit, he played 3 games with the Habs this season, but he's been a primary contributor to the Laval Rocket, getting 16 points in 57 games played as a 25-year-old left-handed defenseman. Habs fans are quick to point out that this is a guy that you want to have in your system because it'll help the guys down there like, for example, a Josh Brook, or some other guys who can find their way onto the Laval roster within the next few months. Having guys who have that veteran presence like a Gustav Olofsson, who, even though he is 25, has done his fair share of NHL, AHL bouncing around, it's helpful. And overall, it helps the younger guys adjust to the pro game, to North American ice, to actually knowing what it takes to be a pro hockey player at this level. So the relationship between the older guys like Olofsson and the younger guys who are coming into the system is indeed a very, very important one. And a signing like this allows that relationship to develop even further. So I like this move. It's just a Laval move, and it's not really something that the Habs, per se, will get affected by, but maybe down the line, some of their prospects that come up could one day say, yeah, you know, Gustav Olofsson was a big part of my development playing with him in Laval someday. But speaking about players who may not actually go to Laval at all, let's talk about Joni Ikonen, because he is a Montreal Canadiens prospect that was drafted a few years ago. Ikonen was selected in the 2017 NHL entry draft in the 2nd round by the Montreal Canadiens, and as a guy who was turning 21 in April, he has just signed a 2-year contract with Hillis in the Finnish Liga. The Canadiens will then own his rights until 2021. This, to me, is an interesting move, because Ikonen has played a whole bunch of hockey in the Finnish Liga with the Kalpa. Recently, though, he actually didn't play any games. His last game played was in the 2018-19 season, where he only played 13 games. Yeah, injuries have really, really slowed down Joni Ikonen. And as a result, he's staying a little bit longer in Finland. A lot of people were looking at this and saying, hey, maybe this is just him not really wanting to go to Laval. Maybe it's just him really just wanting to build his game up in Finland before making the trip over the Atlantic Ocean. Whatever the case may be, though, the Montreal Canadiens' time frame for having Ikonen in their system is winding down, and it's only going to be one more year for Ikonen before he has to make a decision on whether or not he's going to come over. It sucks because he did have 2 season-ending injuries during this development span. Now, granted, back when he was playing a year ago, he was really good. In those 13 games played, he had 10 points, but the fact is, he's been out for a long time, and by this time in about a year, we will really come to see what he's made of if he is able to go over to Ilves and actually be as good as he was before. But, just taking a look at it right now, Ikonen is in a weird spot, and only time will tell if we actually have something with NHL potential here, or if these development years that have gone away were so detrimental to the point where we've kind of lost hope on him in the NHL in the future. Obviously, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that a prospect's chances of making the show are gone, but obviously it is a cause for concern on the injury side of things. So we'll see what Ikonen does with Ilves next season, and then we'll decide from there. However, when it comes to prospects making the jump and prospects being signed, there are a few prospects that have really brought themselves up into the spotlight here, and that we may not even be seeing brought into the system in the next few months. Here's a little article here from CanadiensProspects.com, and it talks about different Habs guys that were drafted a few years ago that will be turning pro next season. In particular, they talk about Samuel Houde, Cam Hillis, Allan McShane, and Cole Fonstad. And in fact, Marc Bergevin apparently alluded to only being able to sign one of them. So, if we're taking a look at what this article is proposing, it is saying that one of Houde, Hillis, McShane, and Fonstad will remain with the club and turn pro, and the other 3 will either re-enter the draft or become a free agent or whatever. And this article talks about how Cam Hillis is the best one out of the 4, but it was actually kind of interesting to me because taking a look at it, all these 3 guys are indeed coming to the point where their junior eligibility will indeed be somewhat in question because they're all going to be turning 20, or they already have turned 20. They're all 2000-born players drafted in 2018. So if only one of these guys is actually going to be able to come back with the Habs next season as a member of the organization, then you're missing out on 3 guys who have some NHL potential. I don't want to say McShane and Houde and Fonstad are amazing prospects, but they certainly are nice assets to have. I will agree, though, that Cam Hillis is indeed probably the most valuable one out of the 4, just because of what he was able to do this season in the OHL. The article also talks about Rafaël Harvey-Pinard and how he will most likely be signed to an AHL-only contract because he can't play in junior hockey anymore, so Laval is probably where he is going to go. And finally, for our last piece of prospect news, we have ourselves Alexander Romanov, whose agent spoke to Pierre LeBrun yesterday and said it's possible, if Montreal wanted, that Romanov signs with the Habs for the remainder of the NHL season, if the season actually does resume, rather than wait for next season. Re-signing with CSKA Moscow is also still an option. This all comes off of the fact that the KHL has given up on trying to reschedule its playoffs, and they have cancelled the remainder of its season. There is no more KHL hockey, but the NHL is still in suspension mode, and it's not gone full-on cancelled mode, which means that if Romanov wanted to come over, in theory, he could finish off the 2019-20 season with Montreal, and even the agent is saying, yeah, that's a possibility here. So, Romanov may be coming over sooner than we think. And that wraps up our Montreal Canadiens news update. Hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you think about Bergevin and Julien sacrificing their wages, the re-signing of Gustav Olofsson, Cam Hillis, Allan McShane, Samuel Houde, and Cole Fonstad, Rafaël Harvey-Pinard, Joni Ikonen, and Alexander Romanov. There's a lot to talk about, so I'm looking forward to seeing all the comments. So this is our Trost 99, and bye.